Welcome back to Economic Game Theory. I'm Sayok. Last episode, we put a name to something every rational player does. They refuse to move when moving would make them worse off. That was Nash equilibrium. But here is a question we left hanging. In the coffee shop game, both shops ended up at discount. Was that just an equilibrium? Or was something deeper going on? Episode 3. Dominant Strategies and the Prisoner's Dilemma. Before we define anything, let's go back to the coffee shop matrix and stare at it carefully. Grind and roast both have two choices: hold price or discount. In episode 2, we checked every cell and found that neither shop can profitably deviate at discount. We called that the equilibrium. But here is what we did not ask: would roast choose discount even if roast had no idea what grind was going to do? Before seeing the column. Before any guessing. Just by looking at its own rows in isolation. The answer turns out to be yes, and that is a much stronger statement than Nash equilibrium. To understand why, we need to be precise about what it means to compare strategies. You have two strategies, call them A and B. Strategy A dominates strategy B if A gives you a payoff that is at least as good as B, and sometimes strictly better, regardless of what anyone else does. The word regardless is doing all the work. This is not about one lucky cell. It is a column-by-column comparison. You line up every possible opponent move, and in every single column, A comes out on top. If that is true, you would be irrational to ever choose B. Economists draw one more distinction worth knowing. Strict dominance means your strategy gives strictly higher payoffs in every column. It beats the alternative every single time, with no ties. Weak dominance means your strategy is never worse, and in at least one column it is strictly better. Ties are allowed, but you are never at a disadvantage. Both types tell you to drop the dominated strategy. Strict dominance gives you the cleaner, harder guarantee. In most textbook games you will encounter strict dominance. Weak dominance matters most when payoffs are very close or have many ties. Let's do this slowly on the coffee shop matrix. Roast's two strategies are no discount and discount. We want to know if discount strictly dominates no discount for roast. Step 1. Suppose grind plays no discount. What does roast earn from no discount? 10. What does roast earn from discount? 14. 14 beats 10, discount wins in column 1. Step 2. Now suppose grind plays discount. What does roast earn from no discount? 2. From discount? 4. 4 beats 2, discount wins in column 2. Discount beats no discount in every column. So discount strictly dominates no discount for roast. We have just done the full dominance test, step by step. Now flip perspectives and run the exact same test for grind. Grind's two strategies are again no discount and discount. Suppose roast plays no discount, grind earns 10 from no discount, 14 from discount. Discount wins. Suppose roast plays discount, grind earns 2 from no discount, 4 from discount. Discount wins again. By symmetry, discount strictly dominates no discount for grind too. When both players have a dominant strategy, we call their intersection the dominant strategy equilibrium. And crucially, it is also a Nash equilibrium, but the reverse is not always true. A Nash equilibrium does not require dominant strategies. Now we are ready for the most famous game in all of game theory. Two suspects are arrested and held in separate rooms. They cannot communicate. Each has two choices: stay silent, or confess and testify against the other. If both stay silent, there is little hard evidence and both receive a short sentence, say 2 years each. If one confesses alone, the confessor is released immediately and the silent one gets 10 years. If both confess, the prosecution has what it needs and both get 5 years. Let's put this in a matrix. Rows are prisoner A, silent or confess. Columns are prisoner B, silent or confess. Payoffs in years of prison, so lower is better. Now apply the dominance test. Suppose prisoner B stays silent. Prisoner A can stay silent and get 2 years, or confess and go free, 0 years. Confess wins. Suppose prisoner B confesses. Prisoner A can stay silent and get 10 years, or confess and get 5 years. Confess wins again. In both columns, confess gives prisoner A better outcome than silent. Confess strictly dominates silent for prisoner A. Run the same test for prisoner B. By symmetry, identical result. Both players have a strictly dominant strategy, confess. The predicted outcome is confess, confess. Both get 5 years. That is the dominant strategy equilibrium of this game. Here is where almost everyone trips up. Both prisoners end up with 5 years each, even though silent would have given them only 2 years each. And the natural reaction is, they must have made a mistake. They must be irrational or paranoid. But that is exactly backwards. Every single step of their reasoning was correct. If prisoner B is silent, confessing is better. If prisoner B confesses, confessing is better. There is no scenario in which staying silent is the right individual move. The tragedy is not a failure of reasoning. The tragedy is built into the structure of the payoffs themselves. Let's sharpen the distinction that trips up most students. Dominant strategy is a property of one player's strategy. It describes how your strategy compares to your alternatives across every opponent move. Nash equilibrium is a property of a full strategy profile. It describes a combination of strategies where no player wants to unilaterally deviate. Every dominant strategy equilibrium is a Nash equilibrium, because if no strategy beats yours in any column, you certainly do not want to deviate. But many Nash equilibria have no dominant strategies at all. Think of the driving game from episode 2, both left and right are Nash equilibria, but neither driver has a strategy that beats the other in every case. Let me make that concrete with a full worked example. Here is the coordination game, the exact driving game just described. 2 drivers each pick a side of the road. If they match, both earn 1. If they mismatch, both earn 0. Check left first. If driver 1 deviates to right, their payoff drops from 1 to 0. No incentive to deviate left is a Nash equilibrium. By the same check, right is also stable. 2 Nash equilibria. Now run the dominance test for driver 1. In column 1, where driver 2 picks left, driver 1 prefers left, 1 beats 0. Left looks good. But in column 2, where driver 2 picks right, driver 1 now prefers right, 1 beats 0. The best response flipped. Left does not win in every column. No strategy beats the other regardless of what the opponent does. 2 Nash equilibria. 0 dominant strategies. This is the gap in full view. The prisoner's dilemma is not just a thought experiment. The same payoff structure appears wherever individual incentives misalign with collective outcomes. In a price war, each firm cuts price to protect market share, even though both would prefer to hold high margins together. In an arms race, each country funds its military because being the only one to disarm is catastrophic, even though both would prefer lower spending. In climate policy, each nation continues to emit because unilateral restraint imposes a local cost without guaranteeing a global fix. The game keeps reappearing. The dominant strategy keeps pointing the same way. And the collective outcome keeps being worse than it needs to be. But before we close, we should be honest about what this model assumes. First, it assumes a one-shot interaction. Players who interact repeatedly can build reputations, threaten future punishment, and sustain cooperation, that is Episode 5. Second, it assumes payoffs are fixed and known. If prisoners genuinely love each other, or fear retaliation, their true payoffs may not match this matrix at all. Third, it assumes rationality is common knowledge. both players know the other is rational, know the other knows it, and so on. In real crises, uncertainty about who is in the room changes everything. Dominant strategy analysis is a sharp scalpel, precise within its assumptions, but limited when those assumptions break. Let's tie it together. A dominant strategy is one that beats your alternatives in every column, regardless of what anyone else does. Strict dominance means it wins strictly everywhere. Weak dominance allows ties. To test for dominance, compare strategies column by column. When both players have dominant strategies, their intersection is a dominant strategy equilibrium, which is always also a Nash equilibrium. The prisoner's dilemma shows that dominant strategy reasoning can lock individually rational players into a collectively bad outcome. That outcome is not caused by irrationality, it is caused by the incentive structure. And the same structure recurs in price wars, arms races, and coordination failures across the real world. Thanks for watching Economic Game Theory. I'm Sayok. We have spent 3 episodes building up to this, games where rationality gives you a clean, definitive answer. But most interesting games are not this clean. What happens when no strategy dominates? When the best move genuinely depends on what the other player does, and there is no dominant escape? The answer may surprise you. Sometimes the rational thing to do is to be deliberately unpredictable. That is mixed strategies. Episode 4, coming next. If this episode clicked for you, hit like or subscribe to follow the full series. See you there.